Okay, so welcome back to the show. It's time to jump into our social hour with me, Shiko Kaitani. Thanks a lot for keeping us company. We do appreciate it as always, including the feedback that we receive every single day through our social media platforms, not to mention our WhatsApp line that's pretty active. And please continue to do so through our ongoing discussions right here on K24. Now, they say that giving your time and support to a cause that you're passionate about is something you will never regret. Giving has in so many ways enriched people's lives and helps us familiarize ourselves with our community. But in the wake of a pandemic and tough times, how do you awaken the giver in you? We know that you're going through tough times, so are we, but allow us to be positively annoying today and talk to you about giving back. Today, joining me on the show, we've got the pleasure of having Mr. Eric Kimani, who is a philanthropist. He is the recipient of the Volunteer of the Year Award from 2008. He also is the Palm House Foundation winner of the Corporate Philanthropy Award 2018 as presented by the East Africa Philanthropy Awards. Karibu sana to the show.
Thank you.
Also joining us via Skype is Wawira Njiru. She is the first ever Global Citizen Prize for Youth Leadership, or rather the winner of the Global Citizen Prize for Youth Leadership presented by Cisco. And she is the founder for Food for Education. Wawira, thank you so much for joining us and karibu sana to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. All right. So we're going to get to you, Wawira, in just a minute. But I want to start off with you, Mr. Kimani. And, you know, just listening to your accomplishments so far, congratulations. Let me start off with that.
Thank you.
There are those that believe once you actually consider yourself or you have that label of philanthropist, that there should be no, you know, awards or titles given to it. What's your take on that?
Thank you, Shiko. I guess what you're asking me is, about recognition
yes.
and anonymous giving. Let me begin by saying I have a lot of respect for people who are anonymous givers.
Yeah.
I am not an anonymous giver. I am a public giver. And I say that because I believe that those who get the recognition inspire others.
Right.
Where would we be without Nobel? If Nobel did not give the prize, where would we be without the Rockefellers, the Ford Foundations? Where would we be?
Gates.
The Bill Gates of this world.
Yeah.
You know, the Beyond Zero.
Right.
Where would we be without recognizing the efforts of the people who do the stuff they do? So I think recognition is a good thing because it motivates others into doing good.
So what do you say about those who even use the Bible to describe such a thing and say, don't let your left hand, or don't let your right hand see what your left hand is doing?
The good thing is that I read the Bible. If you read one line of the Bible alone, it can never make sense. The Bible is a whole book in itself.
Right.
And people misinterpret that.
Yeah.
As I said and began saying, if you feel you want to remain anonymous, it's okay. But it is good to inspire people.
Yeah.
Because without the inspiration, people would put coins and small things into the world, into the church and all that. But you inspire people when you tell them the stories of giving. And I guess that's why I am on the side of those who are open givers and public givers. Yeah. More than the anonymous giver.
All right,
but both are right.
Yeah, both are right. Okay, so what I've learned today that there are two types of givers.
Yes.
So it's what works for you. Let me cross over to Wawira now, if you can hear me, my dear. You say that a hungry child cannot learn. I want to hear a little bit more about your foundation. And, you know, the title kind of does give us a clue about what you do. But explain more to us.
Yeah, First of all, it's true a hungry child can't learn, can't grow, and nutrition impacts children a lot. So at Food for Education, what we do is we provide low-cost, affordable meals to kids in public schools. So the parents, we offer them the nutritious meals at subsidized cost, which is usually around 15 shillings, and the kids are able to get a meal every single day. So we cook the meals in central kitchens, and then we use the technology to distribute the meals to parents contribute through M-Pesa. So this is how we're bringing innovation and technology in the process of production and distribution of school meals. Because as we said, hungry children can't learn or grow. So we ensure that kids are having the right nutrition so that they're able to stay in school. Because even if you give a kid, the fanciest technology, laptops, everything, if they're hungry, they can't learn. So we take care of that need first.
Right, right. How did you end up setting this organization up?
Yeah, I set up the organization when I was 21. So we're talking about the art of giving. And I think one of the things is to say you're never too young or too old to start giving. And one of the things that I started the organization at 21, I didn't have any money. I was a student, an international student, paying my way through university through doing 4 jobs. And I did a small fundraiser with some friends, raised around 125,000 shillings. We built a makeshift kitchen, and we started giving 25 kids lunch. So from then it's grown. Now we give 10,000 kids lunch every day, and are growing once schools reopen to give up to 100,000 by the end of next year. So it started really small, and you don't have to have much to start giving. You can just start with whatever you have, the people within your circle.
All right. Thanks a lot, Wawera. I'll get back to you in just a second, but I want to rope in our audience right now and let them know our question of the day, because we always do have one during our social hours. Why don't you engage us a little bit on this? And we ask, would you even be willing to volunteer for charity work during this pandemic? Wow. Tall order there, right? Would you be willing to volunteer for charity work during this pandemic? Yes, no, and if so, where would you be going? At K24 TV is how you can reach us, and of course through our WhatsApp line, yet again, still pretty active. We'll be taking a look at some of your feedback that will be coming through, and we promise our team in the gallery is working very hard to actually get some of your text messages already in and up on our screens. Mr. Kimani, just listening to Wawera, she has actually chosen this particular route in terms of how to give back to the community, and she's chosen food and school-going children. But the question is, we are so, overloaded with so many options. How do you go about identifying as a philanthropist, okay, this is where my passion is?
I think that's a very good question, and I love the way she has told the story.
Yeah.
She did not start with 10,000. She said she started by skipping lunch and giving to 1, 2, 3, 10. The same thing, we started, for example, in Palm House Foundation.
Yes.
We started with 3 students. Now we talk about 1,000. But many people think I need to start a big thing like Wawera or like Eric Kimani.
Yes.
You've got to find that place to start. What inspires you? Is it treating diabetes? Is it treating cancer? Is it feeding people? And begin small.
Right.
Once you begin, the world, or if you want to say it, God has a way of just opening the avenue. And she will soon be feeding 50,000.
Right.
Palm House will soon be doing 100,000.
Right.
And that is the secret. Follow your dream. Do the small thing you feel inspired to do. Don't consider it too small, but start somewhere. That's what I would say.
And there's plenty to do.
There's plenty to do. I mean, and everybody can do something.
Right.
And everybody is capable of giving. Whether you are poor, whether you are considered rich, there is nobody who cannot give. Yes.
And for you, what really sparked your journey in philanthropy?
Oh, it's a short story. We have invested in the rural areas.
Right.
And in the rural areas, we've set up a milk processing plant about 25 years ago.
Right.
And in the community, there was this need that students would pass very well for high school, and would be admitted to Alliance Girls or Alliance Boys or one of the good schools,
Yeah.
but the parents can't afford. So they would come to us. We were very conspicuous as an investor, and they would say help, and we would give 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, but we soon realized these students don't finish school. They fall out at Form 3, so our money is wasted.
Right.
So we said, let's look for 3.
Yeah.
And select 3, and we announced in the community we'll select 3 students. And when we announced, about 100 students stand up for the 3 positions.
Right.
So we ended up selecting 6. Oh, then we said, why don't we ask a few of our friends to come along with us, and maybe we could select more next year.
Yeah.
And the following year, we invited a few friends to join us. We selected 10.
Yeah. Wow.
The third year, and I'm talking about a 17-year story, the third year we went national.
Wow.
We had touched the hearts of many people. Corporates started to join us.
Yes.
And today, for those last 15 years, we select from every province in this country.
Right.
And we are able to reach all those students, and now we are talking about 1,000.
Yeah.
So I want to build on the dream, on the story by Wawera, that you start small.
You start small.
And identify what makes you tick. For us, education is so revolutionary.
Right.
If I have time, I'll tell you the stories of the revolution I've seen.
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And there you go. There's some amazing pictures
Those
there.
are our students,
telling the story of what
yes,
Palm
yes,
House
yes,
Foundation
yes,
has
yes.
done.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting back to you now that with the pandemic, we can see schools are closed, institutions are closed. Are you feeling that even in terms of food for education, you're out of work, in quotes? How are you keeping busy and helping children at this particular time?
I think that, during this time, what we've seen is that, first of all, the school meals and kids coming to school is very critical. That the meals that they get, the security that schools offer, the safety that schools offer is very, very critical. And one thing that we've seen is that we have been forced to continue with the work that we do, even when students are at home. And we've even been forced to expand to not just feeding those students, but their families as well. Because you can't really give a child a meal and tell them, you go eat this, but don't give your brother and your sister. It's for your nutrition.
Yeah.
You have to give them and their siblings. And so what we've been doing is we've been really, we've distributed around 1.7 meals so far. And until January, we'll be distributing meals to kids and their families and their siblings to ensure that they're able to continue growing. Because, as I said, hungry children can't learn or grow. Nutrition growth doesn't take a break because there's a pandemic.
Right.
Children's growth, their development doesn't take a break because of a pandemic. And so what we've been doing is really targeting in terms of how we can distribute meals to them safely, how we can keep our staff safe, as well as ensure that they're safe when they're collecting food, when they're getting food for their families, and trying to balance that, because also, as well as hungry children can't learn, you can't social distance on an empty stomach.
Right.
So social distancing doesn't work if you're hungry.
Yeah.
So that's another thing in terms of, in light of this pandemic, how we can be able to respond. Yeah.
And let me ask, how do you go about doing your selection or your criteria as to who is the needy student versus who is actually in a decent home, so to speak?
So in terms of when schools are in session, we don't do any criteria in terms of distribution. So every child has access to a meal as long as they're in a school that we're in.
Yeah.
So we said the parents contribute 15 shillings. So the parents are contributing 15 shillings, sorry. And we have a small number of kids who eat for free. So those kids are selected by their teachers, by the board of management at the school.
Yeah.
So they're able to know the kids who are the most vulnerable, the ones who even 15 shillings, as much as it seems very little to many of us, it's a lot for some families.
Right.
So those kids eat for free, and they're selected by their teachers and the board of management and the community at large in which the school is in. So for example, we're in 13 schools.
Yeah.
Around 1,000 kids eat for free, and the rest will contribute the 15 shillings.
All right, Mr. Kimani, what would you consider as healthy or positive giving, in your opinion?
I don't think there is any dictionary definition of what you've just asked, but this will be my view of what is positive and
What is?
yeah. I think giving that transforms, that changes, that moves a need from a position of need to fulfillment is positive giving.
Yeah, right.
Giving that changes, that teaches somebody how to fish rather than just feeding him and feeding him and feeding him and he doesn't know how to learn how to fish. Giving him the tools or her the tools of learning how to fish.
Yeah.
So there are many places. One of the things said about Africa is that we've received more aid than we would have needed for 100 or 1,000 years.
Oh, wow.
But it's gone to waste because the giving was not right.
Right.
The giving doesn't go the right way. So positive and right giving is giving that changes and transforms the position of your target group. That's what I would say.
So if you do believe that, then you do believe there are also people who do it for the wrong reasons.
Precisely. There are people who do it to wash their conscience. There are people who do it to just show the numbers and perhaps to get public approval.
Yeah.
There are people who give it for the wrong reasons because they have excess.
Yeah.
There are people who give it because for many other reasons. Your inspiration also could make it negative.
Right.
Because if you're inspired by, by the wrong motive, then it is not a positive giving.
All right. Let's take a look at some of the feedback that's already streaming in through our WhatsApp line. And of course, we encourage you to do so. We are asking you if you are willing during this pandemic to even spare your time. Would you be willing to go out and volunteer? Well, someone says, yes, I would volunteer. Volunteering is a passion. And anytime I get such an opportunity, I always go for it. It's good and noble helping the less fortunate in society. Absolutely. Well, we're getting back to you. Have you gotten to a position throughout this entire process where you feel that perhaps there were a few individuals or groups of people taking advantage of the good that you're doing in society? Because a lot of givers do find themselves in such a situation whereby you are trying to do good, but there are also external forces either working against you or trying to frustrate you in your work.
I think that, giving is not, it's not a special field in terms of that still happens in all the other fields that many of us are in. Yeah. So whether in media, in journalism, there's always detractors. There's always, things that could sideline you and make you feel that, what I'm doing doesn't really contribute, discouraging your work. So one of the things is that, yes, that does happen in our sector as well. And one of the things is that you have to remember, as Mr. Kimani was talking about motives, what are your motives in doing it? What are your motives in what you're doing? If your motives for us, for example, is to feed 1 million kids a day by 2025, so that's our goal. So anything that doesn't contribute to that goal, you're able to kind of shake it off and say, this is going to bring me down. This is not towards the goal that I want to accomplish. So having a very clear motive and defining what you want to do, your values, and why you want to do it. So if you want it for fame, that's a different motive. For example, if you want it for, to kind of help society. So that's one of the things in terms of thinking about giving and how we can really define our values. And that helps in terms of situations that you have detractors and people trying to put you down. You're able to continue because you have a goal in mind and you really define what your motive is.
We've seen situations where we're aware, of course, NGOs or community-based programs really do go out, will be distributing, whether it's food, clothes, you name it. But of course, there are those individuals, the bad that are in the mix of the greater good, who will take advantage of what you're doing. Have you had such a situation?
Yeah, we've had situations of, for example, people trying to be associated just to get because their motives are different from ours.
Yeah.
So, for example, if they want publicity and things like that, you know, they just want that. They're not really interested in our mission.
Yeah.
You know, there are issues in terms of people who, you know, I'm a young person, so I'm a young woman, you know, I lead the organization alone. A lot of people undermine me, you know, don't really, when I walk into a meeting, someone is asking, who is the boss? What time is the boss coming in?
Right.
And things like that. So learning also as a young woman how to kind of make sure that, you know, you're able to be firm and you stick to your motive, you stick to what you want to accomplish, because you know, situations like that are very, very common. Unfortunately, they're very common in terms of, you know, people either trying to con you or people trying to get, you know, associated with you for the wrong reason. So making sure that your motives are very clear and you're able to go forward knowing that this is my motive and this is what I want to accomplish, and nothing is going to distract me from that.
Okay. Mr. Kimani, just listening to what Wawera has experienced throughout her journey, trying to accomplish, you know, and hitting her target. As a philanthropist, you know, we talk about don't bite the hand that feeds you.
Yes.
Are there those who have, unfortunately, got to that point where they do bite the hand that feeds them in your case?
I think I like what she was saying. And one of the things, for example, in our case, that we find a big challenge is that even like the story in the Bible of the 10 who are given and only one came back.
To say thank
but this alternate route, we get in the hundreds of students we get, there is one student who will go to school and not perform and get expelled.
Right.
After we've raised all this money, gotten people together to educate them, and they don't finish, that's a huge letdown.
Yeah.
You're asking whether there are people who take advantage. We go and select everywhere in this country. We've seen students delivered in a Mercedes to come and look for a scholarship.
Oh my gosh.
You know,
what?
So there are those Kenyans who still believe that they need to be helped even though they don't deserve the help. And they waste a lot of our time in trying to go through the people.
Yes.
So there are many challenges and obviously, we are lucky. We are 100% Kenyan supported organization. We don't have donor support or anything. We are supported by the big corporates in this country, and we really appreciate that.
Right, right. Okay, so we'll get to hear more from you and, of course, your experience as a philanthropist, Mr. Kimani, in just a few, as well as for you, Wawera. Stick with us. Don't go anywhere just yet. We're actually talking about giving back to society, and we want to ask you if you would dare to do the same, especially in the wake of a pandemic. We know that we're going through challenges, and we know that there are so many hardships around us, but can we find it in us to bring out the giver in us? Would you be willing to volunteer for charity work during this pandemic? That's our question to you today. If so, please tell us what your plans are. We would love to hear about them at K24 TVs, how you can reach us through our social media platforms, as well as our WhatsApp number. We'll be sampling some of your text messages in just a moment.